If you feel like you have to earn rest, this episode is for you. Welcome to the Notion of You. I'm Tashi Jones, storyteller, guide, and your gentle reminder to slow down and come home to yourself. Each week, we explore what it means to live with more trust, more presence, and more peace, one breath at a time. You're safe here. Before we go anywhere, I want you to do something for me. Take a deep breath, a real one, not the shallow kind that you've been taking all day between tasks, to-do lists, and everyone else's needs, but a deep one. Let your shoulders drop. Let your belly soften. Let your body remember that it's allowed to land somewhere. Good. I want you to think of this podcast like two friends grabbing coffee. No agenda, no performance, just presence. This is your time, not time you're stealing from something else, not time you have to pay back later, but yours. If you've been scrolling before you hit play, I see you. If you've been running from one thing to the next, and you're listening to this in the in-between, in the car, on a walk, folding laundry, I want you to know that choosing to be here counts. It matters. This episode is for the woman who's tired in a way that sleep alone doesn't fix. The woman who rests and still feels guilty about it. The woman who's been moving so long she's forgotten what stillness even feels like in her own body. That woman is welcome here. Let's begin. There was a season of my life when I genuinely believed my job was the only thing I had going for me. Not just that it was important, but it was legitimately the only place I was allowed to spend myself. My worth lived there. All my value lived there. If I was working, then I mattered. And if I wasn't sure what I was. So when a massive project landed in my lap, I poured everything into it. I was carrying the weight of 3 people's workloads on my own, putting in more hours than anyone around me, and telling myself that it was something to be proud of, that the sacrifices I was making meant dedication, that running on fumes meant I was serious about my life. My body had other things to say. The aches and pains that showed up constantly, the tension that permanently lived in my stomach, that feeling of the weight of the world on my shoulders pressing down every single morning. I couldn't fall asleep at night and then turn around and I couldn't wake up in the morning. I had brain fog so thick I could barely think straight. My thoughts were constantly swirling without really ever landing anywhere. I stopped moving my body the way it needed. In over 2 years, I watched myself change physically in ways that hurt to acknowledge. And when something uncomfortable surfaced, any feelings, grief, quiet, I buried it in more work, in mindless scrolling, and anything that kept me from having to actually be present in my own life. I didn't want to see it, so I didn't. It wasn't one breaking point that woke me up. It was a slow, accumulation of little things. And then my husband and I decided we wanted to start our family. What started as something joyful became a 2-year fertility journey that cracked me open in ways that I was not prepared for because I couldn't ignore my body anymore. My body was the entire conversation. And what I found when I finally got quiet enough to listen was that I had been running from myself for a very long time. Allowing rest back in was one of the hardest things I did because rest forced me into the present. It made me sit with who I actually was and see the gap between that woman and the one I wanted to be. There were pages and pages of journaling, anger, sadness, frustration, and a lot of sitting with God, a lot of sitting with myself. And slowly, underneath all of it, dreams slowly started to surface, hopes, things that I actually wanted. Slowly, the creativity came back, the sparks came back, and I stopped feeling so guilty for saying no to the extra project, for making space for myself, for simply existing without producing something. Here's what I now wish that someone would have told me, that I wish I could tell my past self, that version of me that was white knuckling her way through exhaustion and a job that never held her worth, that she was worthy simply because she was. You can be replaced at your job, but you cannot be replaced in your own life. Let's talk about what actually happens when you can't rest without guilt. Because I don't think it's laziness. I don't think it's a character flaw. I don't think you're broken or undisciplined or someone who simply needs to try harder. I think you've been conditioned deeply, quietly, persistently conditioned to believe that your productivity is your proof of worth. And that belief doesn't just live in your head, it lives in your nervous system. It lives in the way your body tenses when you sit down in the middle of the day. It lives in the voice that shows up the moment you try and take a breath and says, "You haven't earned it yet." That voice isn't the truth, but it feels like it is. And that's what makes it so hard to rest. It's not the resting itself, but the story your body has learned to tell about what rest means. Hustle culture didn't create this from nothing. It took something that was already there, the very human need to feel valuable, to feel like enough, and it gave it a formula: work more, produce more, achieve more, and then maybe, just maybe, you'll have earned the right to slow down. We learned that rest became the reward at the end of a very long day, or a long week, or a long season. And because the list never actually ends, that reward never arrived. The end goal kept moving. You were always one more task away from deserving that stillness. I lived in that formula for years. What I can tell you now from the other side is that it is a lie that your body pays for. Every single day, you override your need for rest. You're making a withdrawal from an account that doesn't have unlimited funds. And eventually, that account runs dry. Not in a dramatic, cinematic way, just something slowly dimming. Creativity that goes quiet. The joy that stops showing up. The version of you, when you look in the mirror, you don't quite recognize anymore. It's not a motivational problem. It's a nervous system problem. So here's what I want you to understand about your nervous system. What I want you to really let land and not just file away as information. Your nervous system is not designed to be in a constant state of output. It's designed to move between activation and restoration, between doing and being. That rhythm, the natural oscillation, is not weakness. It's your biology. It's the way you were made. And when you override it consistently, your body doesn't just get tired. It loses the ability to feel safe in stillness. It starts to read rest as a threat. Because rest has become so unfamiliar, so associated with guilt and falling behind, that your nervous system treats it like danger. This is why you can sit down after a long day and still not be able to relax. It's why you go on vacation and you still feel pulled back to your inbox. That's why rest doesn't always feel restful anymore. Because your body has forgotten what safe stillness feels like. The way back is not one big dramatic retreat. It's not a week off or a perfect morning routine or finally getting everything done so that you can breathe. It's smaller than that, more consistent than that, more humble than that. I call it your minimum rest dose, your MRD, the smallest, repeatable act of rest that you can commit to every single day. This is not an ideal amount of rest or aspirational. It's the non-negotiable bottom line. The thing you do even on the hardest days, even on the full days, even on the days when your to-do list is so loud and the guilt is even louder. Here's why it works. Because your nervous system learns safety through repetition, not through intensity, not through one perfect day of doing it all right, but through small, consistent signals that say this is allowed. This is safe. We do this here. And every time you honor that minimum rest dose, you're sending your body a message. You're building a new reference point. You're teaching yourself slowly and gently that rest is not something that happens to you when you finally collapsed. It's something you choose. And that choice, that act of choosing yourself before the breaking point, is one of the most profound expressions of self-trust you can practice. This is not about doing less. It's about choosing to do life differently. Your MRD might be 10 minutes outside in the morning before your day begins. It could be 15 minutes of reading something that's got nothing to do with work or growth or optimization. Something you read purely because it brings you joy. It might be 5 minutes lying flat on your floor in the afternoon with your eyes closed, your phone away. It might be sitting in your car for a few minutes after you pull in the driveway before you walk back into it all. This doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to look like anything in particular, but it has to be yours and it has to be repeated. Let's track this in a practical way because I think there's something powerful about making it visible. We track our workouts, we track our water, we track our habits, but we rarely track rest as if it's something worth measuring. And what we don't measure, we tend to minimize. So I want you to start treating rest like data worth collecting. I want you to open up your Notion or your journal and set up a rest tracker. 4 different columns: the date, the type, the duration, and how you felt after. Just simple notes here to get you started. So let's talk about the type really quick so that we understand what I'm asking for. The type of rest you get matters more than most people realize because it's not all the same. There's mental rest where you can give your brain, your mind, thinking a break, stepping away from the problem solving, the decision making, the planning. Emotional rest is about creating space to feel without having to perform or process out loud. It might look like solitude, quiet, or simply not being needed by anyone for a few minutes. Physical rest is giving your body permission to be still through lying down, gentle movement, but not pushing. Sensory rest is about reducing the input. Think the noise, the screens, the stimulation that your nervous system is absorbing all day long without you even realizing it. Most of us are only resting in one category while remaining completely depleted in the others. You might sleep for 7 or 8 hours, but still feel emotionally exhausted. You might take a walk, but still feel mentally overwhelmed. So when you start tracking the type of rest you're getting and how you feel after, you can start to see and unearth some of your own patterns. You can see where you're actually running dry and start to fill those spaces with more intention. This isn't about perfection, it's about awareness. And awareness, in my experience, is where that self-trust begins. Let's go for something sensory, because I believe in the power of rituals to help signal your nervous system that it's safe to switch gears. Before your MRD, sleep, intentional rest, bring in a small sensory anchor. For me, this is my oils, reaching for lavender or bergamot or chamomile. Oils that have a long relationship with your parasympathetic nervous system, with a part of you that knows how to exhale. You can diffuse them or simply hold the bottle under your nose and breathe. Apply them to your pulse points. Let the scent do the thing that words sometimes can't. Take 3 slow, deep breaths. Put your devices away, out of reach, out of sight. This whole sequence with your oils, your breath, your devices away can take you 2 minutes. But what it does is creates a bridge between that activated state that your nervous system lives in for most of your day and that restored state that you're trying to move towards. It's that transition. It's telling your body that it's now safe to land. Your nervous system has the chance now to respond to those cues, to give it gentle and consistent ones. Rest is not the absence of productivity. It's the foundation that makes everything else sustainable. It's not what you do when you finally earned a break. It's what you do because you're human. with a body that deserves to be cared for, not just pushed, not just optimized, and not just used until it gives out. You don't have to burn out to deserve this. This is the part where we make it real. I think you know how it goes. You listen to something that resonates, you feel it, and you think, yeah, that's it. And life picks up. The moment passes, and nothing actually changes. Not because you didn't mean for it to change, because meaning it and doing it are two different things. It's one that moves from insight into action. Sometimes you need something concrete to hold on to. So here's what I want you to do before this episode is over. Decide what you're going to do for your minimum rest dose. Not an ideal thing, not the one that would require a different schedule or a different season of life or a different version of you, but the one that's available to you right now in the life you're fully living. A small, honest act of rest you can commit to doing every single day for the next 7 days. Maybe it's 10 minutes outside in the morning before the noise of the day starts, or 15 minutes reading something just for fun, not growth, not research, just joy. Maybe it's 5 minutes laying down in the afternoon with your eyes closed and your hands on your chest. Maybe it's sitting in stillness with your cup of coffee or tea before anyone else in the house wakes up and needs something for you. Whatever it is, name it. Get specific. I'm going to rest more is not a commitment. It's a wish. But I'm going to spend 10 minutes outside every morning before I open my phone. That's something your body can hold on to. Once you have it, open up Notion or your calendar and create it as a recurring item. It's not a suggestion, not a maybe. Recurring, scheduled, treat it part of your weekly plan. Create your rest tracker with the date, the rest type, duration, and how you felt after. All of these things together. Do it for 7 days. Just 7. You're not committing to a new lifestyle overnight. You're running an honest, small experiment with yourself. You're giving your nervous system 7 opportunities to learn that it's safe, that you are someone who follows through for herself. That rest has a place in your life, not because you earned it, but because you simply decided it belonged there. And that decision, that small repeated action, is self-trust. It's the kind of practice that lives inside from burnout to alignment. It's not a structure as a rigid program, but support. Something that you can come back to when you need more structure, when you need a gentle framework to help you stay connected to yourself when life gets loud. If this episode stirred something in you, that book was written for this moment. But first, start with your 7 days. Name your MRD, write it down, and show up for it. That is enough. You made it to the end of this episode, and I don't want to take that lightly. Because if you're someone who has spent a long time believing that rest is something you have to earn, sitting still long enough to listen to this whole conversation is an act of self-courage. So I want you to receive that. Let it count. Here's what I want you to walk away with today. You do not need to burn out to deserve rest. You don't need to hit a wall, collapse, or lose something precious before your body is allowed to stop. Rest is not the reward at the end of the race. It's the grounding beneath your feet while you're running it. It's what makes running sustainable. It's what keeps you in your own life instead of just moving through it. The guilt you feel when you slow down, that's not your conscious. That's conditioning. And conditioning, unlike truth, can be unlearned. Slowly, gently, one minimum rest dose at a time. I was that woman who believed the job made her worthy, who pushed past every signal her body sent, who had to lose quite a bit before she started listening. I can tell you, from where I stand now, the version of me who rests and protects her stillness, who trusts herself enough to stop, she's more present, she's more creative, she's more alive than the one who was running all ever was. That version is available to you. Try your MRD for 7 days. Notice what shifts, not just in your energy, but how you feel about yourself. I'll be back next week. Until then, go gently. You are enough, exactly as you are right now.